On the evening of May 5, 1999, Debbie Griggs, a 34-year-old mother of 3 and 4 months pregnant, vanished from her family home in the coastal town of Deal, Kent. She was last seen alive that night by her husband Andrew Griggs, who claimed the two had argued, and that Debbie had stormed out of the house in distress. The next day, he reported her missing, telling police that his wife had been struggling emotionally and had likely run away. But friends and family were immediately suspicious. Debbie was a devoted mother, and those closest to her said she would never have willingly left her young children behind, especially not while pregnant. Her car was found abandoned less than a mile from their home, oddly positioned and seemingly planted. The lining in the boot was missing, and a faint smear of blood was discovered inside. But without a body, and with little else to go on, police had no proof of foul play. The investigation quickly lost momentum. Andrew, meanwhile, told anyone who would listen that his wife had simply walked out, possibly due to depression. But behind the scenes, Debbie's family knew something was wrong, and they believed Andrew knew more than he was saying. As the years went by, the case went cold. There were no confirmed sightings, no messages, no trace of Debbie anywhere. Andrew eventually moved to Dorset, took the children with him, and tried to build a new life. But the cloud of suspicion never lifted, and for nearly 2 decades, Debbie Griggs was simply gone, missing, presumed dead, with no answers, no justice, and no closure. For nearly 20 years, Debbie Griggs' disappearance remained one of Kent's most haunting unsolved mysteries, until a cold case team took a fresh look in 2018. Detectives from the Kent and Essex Serious Crime Directorate began re-examining the original investigation and quickly found glaring inconsistencies in Andrew Griggs' story. Most disturbing of all was a motive that had been buried for years. At the time of Debbie's disappearance, she had recently learned that Andrew had been grooming a 15-year-old girl. She was planning to divorce him, take the children, and expose his behavior. Investigators now believed that instead of letting that happen, Andrew had killed her to silence her and maintain control. In the original investigation, there had been no body and not enough evidence to charge him. But now, with a clearer understanding of his potential motive, the Crown Prosecution Service believed they had enough to proceed. In July 2019, Andrew Griggs was arrested and charged with Debbie's murder. During the trial, the prosecution painted a chilling picture of a calculated domestic killing carried out to protect Andrew's reputation and remove the threat of a custody battle. The jury heard how Andrew had always claimed Debbie was mentally unwell and had run off. Yet she had made no contact with her family, accessed no bank accounts, and left behind everything, including her children. They also heard about the blood found in the boot of her abandoned car, and the disturbing control Andrew continued to exert over his children in the years that followed. In October 2019, after a 3-week trial, Andrew Griggs was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years. At the time, Debbie's body had still never been found, but for her loved ones, the verdict brought a long-awaited sense of justice. For them, it was proof that the man who had insisted for decades that she walked away was in fact her killer all along. Nearly 3 years after Andrew Griggs was convicted of murdering his wife, the final, most haunting piece of the puzzle was uncovered. In October 2022, police acted on new information and began searching the garden of a home in Dorset, a property Andrew had moved to shortly after Debbie vanished in 1999. What they found there would confirm the darkest fears of Debbie's family. Human remains were discovered buried in the back garden, and forensic analysis soon confirmed what everyone already suspected. It was Debbie. She had been there all along, hidden beneath the very ground her killer had lived on for years with their children. The discovery was horrifying, but it also offered something that had eluded her loved ones for more than 2 decades, the chance to finally bring Debbie home. But the horror didn't end there. As the investigation widened, authorities learned that Andrew Griggs, even after his conviction, had attempted to manipulate the truth from behind bars. In a desperate and chilling effort to clear his name, he had asked one of his sons to dig up Debbie's remains and send a lock of her hair from abroad. It was a blatant attempt to pervert the course of justice, and it failed. In 2025, he was handed an additional 3-year prison sentence for this act, further cementing his place as not only a killer, but a man willing to manipulate even his own child to escape responsibility. For Debbie's family, the discovery of her body was both devastating and necessary. After 23 years of not knowing, they could finally lay her to rest, and the lies Andrew had told about her mental health, her disappearance, her supposed abandonment of her children were fully dismantled. Debbie Griggs didn't walk away. She was silenced, buried, and erased by the very person who was supposed to protect her. And while justice came late, it came with finality. Her killer was behind bars, her truth was no longer in question, and her memory, after all these years, was finally returned to the light.